you ever been gone on a mission for so long that you forgot the future your loved ones sacrificed to give you a tomorrow? Welcome back to PST Channel, Game Story, Movie Style, for your busy days. If you barely have time to breathe, let alone grind through multiple gacha games, we've got you covered with the cinematic, time-saving breakdown of the massive Arknights Endfield 1.0 and the recap of the entire Wuling arc. Today, we're plummeting straight into a deadly exclusion zone to help a mission-centric soldier overcome a heaviness in her heart, permanently sealing a decade-long catastrophic rift, and uncovering a terrifying truth that there's more to Wenman than we know. So let's jump right in. On our way, we'll try to recap the older arcs as necessary. So sit tight, grab your snacks, and enjoy the massive cinema. After the events of Allie 4, we head to Wuling to inspect the aether energy leaking from the very large rift. When we first arrive in Wuling, we learn that Neferth is working with Landbreakers and joined by Ardashir. They're trying to destabilize the Zeronite production in Wuling. The blight is at an all-time high, and the Wuling city is left to deal with it. Kingbo Stockade is an exile group separated from the Wuling city due to their discord. We meet the goofy leader Tang Tang and her brother Ruan Yi. The conflict between Wuling and Stockade is born more out of misunderstandings. We help Tang Tang and Stockade restore their water wheels. Moving to the Wuling city, we meet the Viceroy, Tianwang. She shares how she knew Wenman in the past and that the Zeronite project was started under them only. In Wuling, they utilize Zeronite, a material inspired by originium used to purify water and land. It's a key resource that can repel blight. This is channeled through the Tianqi Pillars, a network of auxiliary and main towers designed to repel blight and aether and protect the city of Wuling. We use AIC technology to solve local water issues, establish Tianqi Pillars, and create a production line to solve the city's Zeronite shortage that Neferth had disrupted. We also provide our AIC factory support to Tang Tang and Stockade on her request. Later, Tang Tang goes dark. And the monitoring station falls under assault by Stockade residents, radicalized by the Bone Crusher clan. Tianwang leaves it to us to solve the issue, and the group infiltrates the Stockade through a secret passage and rescues Tang Tang, only to learn her brother, Ruan Yi, has been manipulated by Ardashir to avenge their father's death in a disaster 10 years ago.
Time to go.
10 years ago, the Wuling Science Station failed to contain a massive rift, which caused blight in nearby areas. Amidst the chaos and supply shortages, the Stockaders, led by Ruan Yi and his father, raided a Wuling convoy for food. It was a tragedy born of misunderstanding. In the panic of a rainy night, the Tianqi unleashed a Thunder Arts attack that killed Ruan Yi's father and permanently injured Tang Tang's eye. Consumed by grief and manipulated by Ardashir, Ruan Yi attacks his friend Waterbell and is eventually confronted by Tang Tang in a battle nobody wanted. Ardashir briefly appears to pay respects before revealing his plan to disable the Zeronite dam. She finally takes up the role of the leader over her personal feelings. Tang Tang chooses to lead her people out of this cycle of revenge, working with the administrator to clear out remaining rebels, like Uncle Shang. Tang Tang and Tianwang reconciling, as the Stockade receives resources, and prisoners are released to reform under Tang Tang's leadership. After some time had passed, Mifu urgently calls Yenmin to the main pillar. She reveals shocking news. Tianwang is missing. Their only clue is a letter left behind by a member of the Stockade, stating that this abduction is an act of revenge for the disaster that devastated their home a decade ago. Rushing to the forest to investigate, Mifu and Enmin are ambushed by a group of Stockade warriors. After fighting them off, they're confronted by an elite Stockade warrior, Mifu's former master from before she left her homeland. He hands over a personal token belonging to Tianchi, assuring them that she is safe. The Stockade doesn't want blood, they just want to settle an old, unpaid account. The three masters of the Stockade step forward, questioning Mifu's loyalty and accusing her of betraying the oath she swore to them before joining Wuling. Unshaken, Mifu stands her ground, declaring her unwavering commitment to her current duties as the captain of Wuling Watchguards. Seeing her resolve, the masters issue a challenge. They will settle this. If Mifu can defeat them in combat, they will release Tianchi. Mifu pulls Enmin aside. She explains that these three masters raised her and taught her everything she knows about fighting. Under their guidance, she had originally sworn to take down Wuling and carry the Stockade's legacy forward. She asks Enmin to keep this dark history a secret. If word got out, all the hard work she, Enmin, and Tang Tang put into maintaining a fragile peace between the two factions would be destroyed. Back when she was the strongest fighter in the Stockade, she marched into Wuling to challenge Tianchi Shuang. The two fought a grueling, drawn-out battle until Mifu finally passed out from exhaustion. Critically ill with neuropathy, Mifu fully expected to be left for dead. Instead, Tianchi Shuang saved her life. It was Tianchi who taught Mifu a pivotal lesson. Fists aren't just tools for destruction, they're meant for protecting others. This revelation is what ultimately led Mifu to leave the Stockade and join Wuling. Knowing that the Grandmaster is the very reason she is so strong, Mifu is suddenly struck by a crisis of confidence. She truly believes she cannot defeat him. Mifu's clearing her mind for the fight of her life, believing the fate of Wuling and the Stockade rests on her shoulders, and only she can save Tianchi Shuang. She resolves to face her past and steps into the arena. Mifu charges into the arena, ready to face the Grandmaster. Just as she winds up to launch a devastating punch, Enmin jumps in and stops her, dramatically declaring that the Grandmaster is not her true opponent today. Right on cue, Tianchi Shuang casually steps out of the shadows, completely unharmed and looking entirely unfazed. Mifu freezes in utter shock. Tianchi turns to the three masters, asking if they have finally seen Mifu's unwavering resolve. Nodding in agreement, the masters concede. They admit Tianchi was right. Mifu hadn't abandoned her roots. She has simply chosen a new path alongside worthy allies. Bowing slightly, they offer Mifu their genuine respect and declare that the bitter grudge between the Stockade and Wuling ends today. Tianchi Shuang looks at Mifu with pride, recalling the fearless, stubborn girl who once challenged her to a duel. Tianchi had never asked for anything in return for saving Mifu's life, yet Mifu stayed to protect Wuling anyway. To finalize the peace treaty, Tianchi proposes one last match, a symbolic duel to settle the discord forever. Tianchi will represent Wuling, and Mifu represents the Stockade. It's no longer a fight born of hatred, but a clash of absolute honor.
It's the river's way!
Tianqi Shuang officially promised long-term peace, stability, and mutual support to the Stockade. The Masters, having gained new perspective during their exile, realized that a nation progresses through cooperation, not isolation. The ancient internal feud is finally laid to rest, and Mifu, no longer torn between the two homes, is completely freed from her internal conflict. With Neferth and Ardashir plotting in the open, the Wuling city mobilizes the Yinglun Special Task Force. The YSTF is an elite unit directly under the Hongshan Academy of Sciences, or HAS, and their sole objective is a decapitation strike on the enemy. Arcane. An elite task leader and former rival of Chen joins the mission to stop Ardashir from destroying the Marker Stone. With the help of Farenmut's heart, we try to repel the Blight. Farenmuts are godlike beings possessing supernatural traits that completely transcend standard Originium arts. Because of this, they are often worshipped as deities. A proxy is a humanoid vessel that inherits a portion of the Farenmut's true power. With the help of the proxy, we restart the Farenmut's heart and we solve this Marker Stone crisis. Inside the Marker Stone, Ardashir reveals he is a Phidia who has lived multiple lives. Their goal is to open the very large rift and help the return of the Foundation from the Aether side. He departs after giving the Administrator an ancient dinar as a parting gift. With the proxy's power, Arcane then locks herself to seal Ardashir within an ink scroll, leaving the city's defense in the team's hands. Using everything as a distraction, Neferth mobilizes her landbreakers and launches a direct assault with the Blight attacks, but everyone stands together to protect their Wuling. Enmin and Tianqi Shuang battle and defeat her at the main pillar. Due to Neferth's attacks during the battle, the massive aftershocks compromised the underground Zeronite dam. Later, Tianqi Shuang reveals a hidden Aether rift beneath the city and attempts to seal it alone. To seal the rifts permanently, Shuang needs to restart a stalled R&D for their rift sealing system called the Project Zeronite Nexus, the test being successful and becoming a milestone in dealing with the rifts. She was ready to sacrifice herself as the leader of Wuling, but the Administrator joins her and they deal with it together, traversing a memory scroll of the science station disaster to comfort her past self. Together, they permanently seal the small rift and celebrate with a shared drink. Years ago, a catastrophic event known as the Very Large Rift tore through northern Wuling. It swallowed entire neighborhoods, wiped out the Wuling Science Station, and turned the region into a toxic, blight-infested no man's land known as the North Wuling Exclusion Zone. Thousands lost their lives, and countless others were forced to flee. Now, after endless research, our breakthroughs with the Zeronite Nexus have finally opened a real window to seal the rift once and for all. The Enmin receives an urgent update from Tianqi Shuang. Tuning on the Zeronite Nexus has reached a critical stage, but sealing a threat of this scale will require the proxy's power and Protocol Originium. We travel to Dijang to meet up with Tianqi Shuang and Perlica. Seeing how exhausted the Enmin is, they insist on letting us rest before the monumental operation begins. While resting, the Enmin falls into a vivid, mysterious dream. In it, the enigmatic girl who has appeared since the very beginning cradles the image of the Administrator, tenderly calling them her little sibling. This profound moment drops a massive clue connecting directly to the Administrator's forgotten origins. Perlica wakes up with good news. The Zeronite Nexus tuning is complete. Tianqi Shuang also reveals that Arcane has finally awakened following her brutal battle from before. We rush to her side, but Arcane delivers a chilling update. Her Originium arts failed to eliminate Ardashir. The Blight Miasma in the North Wuling Exclusion Zone is spiking rapidly. Neferth's dark tricks have destabilized the Very Large Rift. Arcane explains that Ardashir and Neferth's goal was always to force the Very Large Rift open, but their true target isn't Wuling at all. It's you, the Enmin. During her fight, Aether continuously restored Ardashir's body, making him immune to lethal damage. Before retreating, Ardashir told Arcane to bring him to the Enmin before the truth hurts them. Recognizing that the rift might be an elaborate trap, we decide we cannot ignore it. Armed with the Zeronite Nexus, we prepare to suppress the hazard. Despite her severe injuries, Arcane firmly demands to lead the task force into the exclusion zone. For her, this mission is deeply personal. Tianwang approves, mobilizing additional reinforcements for the perilous journey ahead. Our team sets out, arriving at our first checkpoint, Yinglun Pass. Entering a high blight sector, Arcane takes command of the task force. Before we can stabilize the area, hordes of blight shades swarm our perimeter. These terrifying entities are aether-side phenomena, remnants of past victims consumed by the aether energy. Just as the fighting reaches a fever pitch, the proxy arrives and vaporizes the remaining hostiles with ease. Introducing herself as Lady C, she requests our Zeronite Nexus and prepares to move deeper into the northern zone. Before heading out, she hands us a strange scroll prison. Inside, she has trapped the dangerous Ardashir, turning him into a cartoon ink scribble. We step inside the ink scroll prison to interrogate Ardashir. Ardashir reveals that he wasn't born with aether-wielding capabilities. Both he and Neferth serve a mysterious, unnamed lady. When questioned about his grand design, Ardashir lays out his worldview. He intends to tear open a permanent portal to the Aether side via the Very Large Rift, forcing the Endmen to become the absolute, supreme ruler of the cosmos. In his mind, under the rule of one all-powerful tyrant, senseless violence and endless conflict will cease to exist. When the Endman points out the hypocrisy of using senseless violence to achieve peace, Ardashir remains unfazed, revealing that he was once a devoted follower of the Endman in a past life. He promises that once we gaze upon the Very Large Rift, we will seek him out again. The moment Ardashir mentions the Foundation, the Endman's proto-ring blinks intensely. Ardashir smiles, stating that we will witness the truth, even if our memories have faded. Perlica shares a crucial context. The Foundation first emerged on Talos II during the First Agaloe War as an ancient interstellar civilization that was ultimately destroyed by unknown causes. Regrouping with Lady C, she drops subtle hints implying she and the Endmen share a deep history from 10 years ago that we no longer remember. She directs us to activate 3 defense towers infused with Baronmut power, focusing their energy to suppress the heavy blight. Once focused, Lady C will perform the final augmentation on the Zeronite Nexus, so it can seal the Very Large Rift. Soon, Tianwang arrives with the Wuling's full force. This isn't just a containment operation anymore. It's a battle to reclaim the lost part of Wuling, a homecoming. 10 years of waiting ends today.
We have arrived.
Major factions across the region, Wuling, the Stockade, YSTF, Endfield, and more, coordinate as one unified front to erase the decade-long shadow hanging over their home. As we march forward, Arcane stops Li Feng from advancing any further, wanting to spare him from the agony of encountering the blight shades of his deceased parents. Moving deeper, Arcane catches a glimpse of an ethereal blight shade of a little girl, which vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Chen urges Arcane to rely on her allies rather than carrying the entire world on her shoulders, but Arcane remains hyper-fixated on the objective. We arrive at the ruins of the Wuling Science Station. Arcane reminisces about how this place used to be a vibrant center of learning for young children and researchers alike. Many grew up to join the Tianqi, or became Yingluns deployed right here under the ancient tree that still stands today. Tragically, most of the children who studied here perished when the disaster struck. As we clear out roaming blight shades, Arcane's emotional state deteriorates. Haunted by heaviness, she nearly strikes a friendly soldier in a flash of blind panic. Chen watches with growing concern for her old friend. Arcane was present during the original disaster 10 years ago and lost everyone she held dear. She carries an agonizing burden of survivor's guilt, constantly feeling a need to sacrifice even herself for the sake of the mission. Suddenly, the blight shade of Instructor Zhu, Arcane and Chen's former mentor from the academy, materializes before us. He was one of the people who sacrificed himself so Arcane could live. Instructor Zhu's shade forces Arcane and Chen into teamwork, subconsciously forcing them to repair their bond through combat. The psychological strain on Arcane is devastating. Being forced to cut down the spectral faces of her loved ones is taking a terrifying toll. Yet seeing Chen stand resolutely beside her keeps Arcane grounded. Still, Arcane quietly clings to the belief that her own life is disposable if it means completing the mission. We finally reach the heart of the science station, the research center where Tianwang was stationed when the Rift first tore open. Tianwang gently reminds Arcane to prioritize her safety and stop rushing toward self-destruction. Nearby, the Enman's proto-ring reacts violently to the rising Aether signature. Although the facility lies in ruins, some databanks remain intact. We extract the remaining research files and send them to Tianwang, providing critical data to boost the Zeronite project. She shows us the memorial, built where Project Zeronite was first conceived, and it had Enman's name. If only the production was completed back then, the whole disaster could have possibly been averted. We also learn the truth behind why Chen was disqualified from the Yinglun task force. Chen had abandoned an official mission command to save her wounded comrades. Arcane, bound to a cold sense of duty, had struggled to understand Chen's choice. Arcane shares that Instructor Zhu actually approved of Chen's actions, but had forced herself to believe that duty must always override emotion. Chen challenges her worldview once more, begging Arcane to look toward a future beyond sacrifice and learn to trust her friends. As we march forward, suddenly, the Aether energy surges violently. A bridge collapses and sends Arcane plunging into a gorge below. Without hesitation, the Enman dives in after her. Wounded at the bottom of the gorge, Arcane is swarmed by relentless blight shades. Just as she is about to be overwhelmed, the Enman drops in, clearing the field and saving her life. Surrounded by the spectral echoes of the past, Arcane gazes at the trail of ghosts and makes a heartbreaking realization. The peaceful blight shade of the little girl she has been following was actually a memory fragment of young Arcane herself. 10 years ago, the dying survivors coordinated together, burning their lives away like a relay to pass the young Arcane to safety. Arcane had never mentally left that tragic day. Her trauma trapped her in an obsession with self-sacrifice. Overwhelmed, Arcane breaks down, believing she is no better than a ghost obsessed with death. The Enman uses Originium to show her the hidden truth. Those people didn't die out of cold, unfeeling duty. They gave their lives because Arcane represented their hope for the future. They died to give her a tomorrow that they themselves could never have.
Left the ruins. You were the only survivor who carried hope within herself. It is truly wonderful to know you have survived. depart from you.
Quest.
Deeper in the gorge, we discover a gigantic, radiant sword embedded in the earth. Its massive aether energy was responsible for shattering the bridges above and triggering the proto-ring's reactions. The Zeronite Nexus to neutralize the sword, the memory fragment of Child Arcane smiles and finally fades away at peace. Arcane admits she was so focused on what she had lost that she forgot to honor what she had been given. She finally understands the true meaning of hope and the strength that comes from sharing her burdens with others. Rejoining the main force, we report our findings on the giant sword. Tianxi's Ring scan team reveals that the weapon is made of an unknown, highly anomalous material saturated with aether energy. Arcane notes that while everyone previously viewed aether events as natural disasters, this sword proves that they are deliberate attacks, giving her long-standing grief a tangible revenge. With our preparations complete, we advance directly to the edge of the very large rift to deploy the Zeronite Nexus. A terrifying entity emerges, Allie Creos Kiliarch, a high-ranking battle creation of the Foundation.
Sugama Krista Sugama Tsanya Tanya Tsvai Sugama Istaba Ujla Vizla Da Teraz Nafwa.
I refuse.
Allie Creos wields a piece of protocol originium. Having roamed the aether side for eons, he reclaimed his lost sword.
Forgive my transgression.
Shall bring it, darkness!
Does a river run to the source? Does a cloud somewhere from morning I dream my heart beats again.
Allie Creos addresses the Endman, implying that the Endman was his original creator. As Allie Creos falls in battle, he reaches out toward the Endman with his final breath, gasping, "My maker is only deceived by her." With his defeat, the decade-long threat over Wuling is erased. The very large rift collapses and seals shut forever. While the forces outside celebrate, chaos unfolds inside Lady C's ink scroll prison. Neferth, who is believed to be dead, manifests inside the scroll. Neferth used this entire event to steal Allie Creos' protocol originium, which allows someone to survive within the Aether side. The Foundation wants to enslave humanity for the precursors, while Ardashir wants to make the Endman a supreme ruler to remove conflicts in the world. But Neferth rejects both, refusing to bow to anyone. She wants to forge a third path. She stabs Ardashir and walks away. She tells Ardashir to tell her that Neferth fulfilled her side of the bargain, and that they will meet again on Talos 5. Our task force returns victorious. Lady C arrived just in time during the climax to shield the surrounding populace from overflowing Aether energy. The long-awaited reconstruction of the North Wuling exclusion zone can finally begin, marking the return of Wuling's lost home and closing a dark chapter in history. Perlica meets with the Endman, deeply unsettled by Allie Creos' dying words. She reveals that during the First Agaloe War, an ancient military force controlled the Anchor and Agaloe, nearly wiping out civilization before being defeated by the Endman and Terra's legendary heroes. How they survived in the Aether side remains a mystery. With her decade-long burden lifted, Tianwang can finally rest. Arcane and Chen visit the memorial site to pay their final respects to those lost in the disaster. Watching Arcane stand tall with a renewed outlook, Chen smiles. Their bond is lifelong friends, stronger than ever. The Endman meets with Lady C, who gently notices the Aether blighting the Endman's body. Demonstrating care, she confirms that both she and Ardashir knew the Endman personally in the distant past, and senses that Neferth breached her scroll prison. Finally, the Endman meets with M3 in Dijon. M3 reveals that the Foundation are the precursor creators of the Anchor and the Agaloe. They viewed Terran civilization as an inferior species that needs to be enslaved. Eons ago, the Endman personally banned them to the Aether side, ending the war. M3 urges the Endman to rest, reassuring us that no matter what threats emerge from the shadows, Endfield will always stand by our side. Okay, so summarizing the major things. The Foundation, an organization of precursors who created the Anchor and Agaloe to enslave Terra. The Endman banished them to the Aether side during the First Agaloe War, but they are slowly returning. Protocol Originium grants the ability to survive within the Aether side. Ardashir wants to make the Endman a supreme ruler to end all war. Neferth rejects both the Foundation and Ardashir, pursuing her own third path while serving a mysterious lady. Neferth has gone rogue while Ardashir is dead, but he can regenerate. Allie Creos Kiliarch, a creation of the Foundation who claimed the Endman was his maker, revealing that the very large rift was an intentional attack rather than a natural disaster. Arcane overcomes her traumatic past, discovering the true meaning of hope and healing her bond with Chen. The Very Large Rift is officially sealed, lifting Wuling's biggest burden and allowing Tianwang to finally reclaim their lost territory. And that wraps up this massive story of Wuling so far. What do you think about the Endman's secret connection to the Foundation and Allie Creos? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this cinematic recap, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Seek the story, watch PST.